Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel. And I wanted to address an interview that Brie Larson did a short while ago. A lot of other YouTubers have already made videos about this or covered the article, the interview in full, and they've done great jobs of that. Specifically Nerdrotic, Jeremy from The Quartering, of course Geeks and Gamers have talked about it. But I wanted to talk about one specific thing that Brie Larson says in this article because it's a nitpick, not even a nitpick, it's a major problem that I have with the SJW way of going about making movies or telling quote-unquote stories. They think they're telling stories, but they're privileging the agenda over the storytelling, as I've said many, many times, and that's what's hurting the story. That's what people have a problem with. It's not about that, oh, there happens to be a woman or people of color or whatever. That's fine. It's when you kill the story because of it, and that's your priority. And this is just a perfect example of how they don't get it. There's this disconnect. Brie Larson can't help herself. She continuously opens that mouth and says all of this crap. And she's riding this wave. I mean, she's in a very protective bubble, not just because of the way the industry is protecting her. Disney, Marvel, and Netflix, everybody's trying to protect her. No one can dare say something bad about Brie, or you're just a misogynist or whatever. But she's also in this weird protective space in terms of film releases and marketing because of Captain Marvel. When that movie came out, where it came out in the flow of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it was impossible that movie was going to flop. Being the lead up film to Endgame, of course people were going to go see that. And her being in Endgame, that's a shoo-in. The Endgame is going to be a success because it's Endgame, and she gets to ride the glory of that a little bit for having a bit part in that. And now she's, is there putting all the hopes and dreams of the MCU on her and going to remake it in her image now and all that nonsense. She's in a place right now where she can speak without any kind of consequence that's going to touch her anytime soon. It will touch her, and the MCU is on a downhill run. Make no mistake, but it's going to take a while for that to really show. And I think she knows that on some level, so she's really taking advantage of this little opportunity she has to push her agenda and platform as much as she possibly can. And specifically, the question I want to talk about here is when she's asked, I'm reading the article here, and the question says, so you're not just an actress, you're a director too. Do you have any aspirations to direct an MCU movie? Now, we've known, it's been said by other YouTubers, how does she think she's even remotely qualified for that? For having directed the Unicorn Store? Seriously? That's what you think qualified? But God has sent her on this mission. I mean, she probably doesn't even believe in a God, but that's how ridiculously moralistic she is with this idea and this social agenda that she wants to push. She's on this holy mission, so she should be qualified to do anything as long as it means she can further this mission and this agenda. So this is what she says, and some specific things about what she says here really betrays a complete and total lack of understanding of just basic storytelling. She says, totally. I mean, for me, whether it's acting or directing, it's about story. No, it's not, Brie. No, it's not. You've proven that it's nothing about story. She says, I've always been incredibly impressed with Marvel's ability to talk about very difficult subject matters, whether it's internal human condition stuff or worldwide issues. Who speaks like this? Through the metaphor of superheroes and aliens in space. Okay, so I'll come back to that in a second. Metaphor. Tackling difficult subject matters through the metaphor of superheroes and aliens in space. I'll come back to that. She says, I feel like they've become such a powerful tool of connection that, of course, it's something I would love to tackle eventually, given the right story. So again, she claims to care about story, but she doesn't. Nothing that she's been in. I don't know of any film that she's been in that she had real control over. Kong Skull Island, I really enjoyed a lot, but she was just she was a garnish in that movie. She played a typical, hippie of that era or whatever, and she wasn't really important to the film at all. Anything that she's had control over has been a sermon, not a story. Whether you like Brie Larson or not, you know that when you go see a film of hers, especially now that she has the fame and the power to choose her films and whatnot, whether she directs or not, you know that you're going to strap in for a sermon, not a story. Captain Marvel, the film, was not a story. That was no character arc whatsoever. I'll talk about this more in a second here. But she says she's impressed by Marvel's ability to deal and tackle these difficult subject matters through the lens of by the way of using metaphor of superheroes and aliens in space. Now, the metaphor of the superhero, what she says there anyway, is exactly right. It is an incredibly profound and powerful tool, the metaphor of the superhero. But the social agenda, the social justice warriors, Brie Larson included, they don't want to tell stories including metaphor. They want to strip the superhero genre of all of its metaphor and just apply their social justice agendas directly to the characters. This is what Marvel has been doing in comics forever. This is what they do. They've even done this in DC Comics, that Supergirl issue where it's all about Supergirl, getting to know the girl who's non-gender binary or whatever nonsense. That's not a metaphor. That's an actual issue, an actual person in the story that you're placing in there. When they have superheroes, they aren't really even fighting supervillains anymore. They're just fighting like the ignorance of some small town that doesn't understand gay rights or something like that. Where the hell's the metaphor? There's no metaphor to you social justice warriors in your quote unquote storytelling. You want to preach the message. That's all you want. You have no story. You have no metaphor. Look at Captain Marvel. Where's the metaphor in that? This is about a girl who, growing up, and her father wouldn't let her play like her brothers did, and she wanted to join the Air Force, but big, bad, mean men said mean things to her, and then you get to the point of the Kree, and this is the field. This is a good, solid, fertile ground for a good metaphor here. The Kree warrior who's being kept in the dark about the truth of the Skrull and Kree war and her own specific past and her own specific makeup and her powers coming from the Tesseract. Now that's good soil, as I said, for a good solid metaphor, but they can't leave it alone. They can't let it be a metaphor. They have to strip it away and link it directly to the yay feminist female issue. Women are victims. Women have done nothing wrong. It's the patriarchy. It's the big evil systems of man that have been keeping them down all their life. But you can't do that because feminists will always get up afterwards. And look at that. That's what they did. They had this wonderful, what could have been a great metaphor of her as a Kree warrior being kept in the dark and all of that. And they, control your emotions. Well, that's getting at only an idiot can't see that, as the man telling the woman to control her emotions. But then in that whole montage of her looking back on her life, and yes, what the Kree are doing to me is no different than that bad man who said that it was called a cockpit for a reason, and that time I couldn't ride go-karts like my brother. I mean, it's just ridiculous. They've stripped away all metaphor. They are so hell-bent on preaching a message that they refuse to allow it to come through the material in an organic fashion, to just tell a story and let the story do its work in the audience's hearts and minds. No, we can't risk that. We have to be very heavy-handed about our message. Screw metaphor, throw metaphor to the wind. We need to preach. Preach. That's what Brie Larson is all about. That's her quote unquote storytelling. So this nonsense, this claim that she has to, I'm just so impressed by the usefulness of this metaphor of superheroes. You have no idea how to use that tool. You have no idea how to use it. Their subtlety is completely lost on these SJWs. All they want to do is preach. They want to drive it home. Talking about the Captain Marvel movie, I literally know of no one who likes that movie. A lot of people that I've talked to will think, it had its moments. Whatever. There was something they tolerated in order to get to Endgame. But most people I know hated it, like me. They see the problems with it. But, there's a vast majority of people out there, too, who will just say, it just didn't wow me. They won't really say anything much bad about it, but they certainly won't say anything good about it. But the only people I know of who really try to extol the virtues, quote unquote, of this film and really try to defend it as any kind of thing great in any way are either the white knights, the male feminists who are just desperate for attention, desperate to identify as on the right thinkers or whatever, desperate for a little attention from feminists, or you got the feminists themselves and the ones who find it very convenient and very comfortable to look at themselves as victims. I know of one woman in particular who I used to be friends with, and she used to have great opinions and used to be very level-headed about all of this stuff. Then she went through a difficult divorce. And guess what? She discovered this idea of feminism and that you are a victim, sweetheart. Don't worry about it. You did nothing wrong. Big bad men have just been doing what big bad men have always been doing. And you just come over here with us and we'll tell you what a wonderful, amazing, fault-free person you are. And it's just all those evil men in that patriarchy. Guess what? She loves this movie. Of course she does. Of course she does. There's no story. There's no universal truths to this movie. It's playing into the victim narrative that these people have embraced and taken to heart, because it means they have to take no responsibility for their own actions, no responsibility for their own decisions in life. They can just point to other people, the big bad man who's done this to them. It's so frustrating. It's not a good time for real storytelling. What they call story is just propaganda. That's all they know how to create. That's all they know how to do. And that's all they're going to continue to do. So good luck with that MCU and the future of it. And, yeah, we'll always have the past. We'll always have the comics. We'll always have the indie stuff that's being created. And there we go. Speaking of, I have my own graphic novel. Ad will be at the end of the video. And there are so many more out there. Go check out Indiegogo. Check out Indiecron. Check out some of Edwin Boyette's showcase videos. People are making wonderful stories out there that are not bound by the nonsense agenda and gatekeeping and restrictions of the industry. That's all for now. Until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the hero stories you love. Thanks for watching. Do you like comics that are unafraid to portray women as feminine and men as masculine? Do you enjoy being entertained rather than preached to? If so, then you'll love my own graphic novel, currently on Indiegogo. Tales from the Stacks is an anthology series in the vein of The Twilight Zone or Tales from the Crypt. It contains 3 uncanny tales to thrill and haunt you long after reading. With interior art by Dave T. and variant covers by John Malin, Kyle Ritter, and Kyung Lee, you have lots of options to choose from. You can find the link in the description below or search Indiegogo for Tales from the Stacks, and tell the comic industry you don't have to settle for their social agenda platforming. Thanks. And last but not least, don't forget that your Professor Geek now has a merch store. Check out the current options from t-shirts to magnets to the iconic Professor Geek coffee mug, and let me know if you'd like to see something else. The link is in the description, or you can go to cafepress.com/ProfessorGeek.